Okay, so here I am bringing you the next edition of the Kristen Wheatley I'm Not in Class, so I need to do another videos for you. So two articles that I have to do this week. One was the one that everybody has to do, and one was an extra one. The first one I'm going to start with is one about Common Core statistics, along with science and, in particular, learning disability students in the science area. So that should be following a theme if Justin and Emily have gone before me. One of the things that it kind of talks about is that even though science is a hands-on and a doing type of course, the Common Core state standards have adjusted that so that there needs to be more literary content, and there's an increased focus on reading and writing and other communication skills, so that offers a roadblock for some of our learning disabled students. So most of our secondary learners have a little bit higher acquisition of learning or of literacy skills on there, but since our learning disabled students kids are expected to have higher level text acquisition skills in the higher grades, and since our learning disabled students typically do not have those skills most of the time, they're still expected to learn as an independent kind of study method. Where they're learning from a text a lot of the background information before they can actually put the concepts into practice. So they've argued that science obviously is a doing course and you can learn hands-on and experimental learning. However, still a lot of pressure is put on those learning disabled kids to understand those concepts coming straight from the book. They're changing the science standards because over our current method they are organized over multiple years of school, and they focus on discrete facts, and yet we're not really looking at how science is supposed to be done. So they've come up with 3 basic science things for the Common Core. One of those is the science and engineering principles, which I talked to a little bit before in my other journal. The other one are the cross-cutting concepts that go across all of the fields. And then again, the core ideas from the 4 disciplinary areas of science: physical, life, earth, and space, along with engineering, technology, and application. There are 6 guiding principles for the framework. One of those is, the first one is that children have the natural ability to learn and experience the world around them. They have this general curiosity about the world. So it's very important to start our science instruction at those lower levels, where it doesn't have to be something of a pure science, but they need to be exposed to those, asking questions and figuring out why. And this is where we've seen the greatest advances with some of our learning disabled students, is because they're able to use inductive thinking to make those generalizations and kind of talk the problem out. For principle 2, it is focus on core ideas over the individual facts, and those kids that have learning disabilities are not prone to understanding the science concepts. When we talk about it's a curriculum, it's a mile wide and an inch deep. That focuses on their weaknesses and not their strengths. So we want to focus on, again, those big ideas that can be applied across the domains. The third principle is the development of true understanding over time. So revisiting those conceptual frameworks again and again and promoting a deep and thorough understanding of them throughout the science discipline. Principle 4 is the consideration of both knowledge and practice. So again, when we talk about doing science, you are putting that into practice. The 5th one is linkage of science education to students' experiences and interests. Just like everything else, you're trying to find those connections that the brain can make so the kids can truly understand what is being promoted to them. And the last one is promoting equity. Obviously, in this context, we want to try to get everybody learning the science. I said that there were 3 dimensions of the framework for the science development. One of them is the scientific and engineering practices. So again, this is the doing part of the science, and the planning and the organizing and carrying out the investigations and the analyzing, and finding a conclusion that's based on evidence. And we've seen those process skills are the best way for those learning disabled kids to get those concepts across. So when the students were actively coached about how to get to an answer, we've seen great strides than if they were just told and given the facts and then they were asked to regurgitate them. So as they're getting coached through, like, why would it make sense for anteaters to have long front claws, they can figure their way through that answer and come up with something that's evidence-based for why the answer to that would be because they need to dig farther into the dirt to find their prey. The second dimension is cross-cutting concepts. Those are the broad themes that have relevance across the science content areas. Things like patterns, cause and effects, systems and system models, all things like that. And the concepts are demonstrated across different areas of science that can strengthen and promote the understanding of the learning. The third dimension focuses on the core content. So science is not supposed to teach all the facts, but they're supposed to prepare students with a sufficient core knowledge so that later on they can acquire different information on their own and put it into the context needed. As of right now, our science standards are based on factual recall, and what we're trying to move into is using and applying the scientific knowledge. This article actually calls out three different ideas regarding to students with disabilities. One of those is that we can't exclude them from learning the appropriate science, which, I mean, duh, we have to keep them in there. And then the second one that I thought was interesting was they're talking about it doesn't matter what population of students it is. It's including all of those that have been poorly served in like science and engineering in particular. And one of the first thing that they called out was females. So females, underrepresented minorities, along with English language learners and students with disabilities. So it's not just pertaining to the special education side of it. It's calling to anything that might be a minority in that subject matter. And then the third one was developing those assessments that are both fair and just for the different demographic groups that they have to come up with. So we've said all students can learn science. It's just that those kids with the learning disabilities might not learn it as efficiently as the general population. And one of the other things that we're going up against is typically our special education teachers are not certified to the extent that our general education teachers are in science, so they don't necessarily have the background information to help draw for examples and things like that. There's a lot of teachers, of course, like general education that supports the inclusion practices, but they're also asking for more help from the special education population on how to incorporate those ideas. So all in all, when Common Core comes down the pipe for science, it's going to be looking for more circumstances where they're going to benefit from the adaptations, as well as the questioning strategies, test processing strategies, activities, and things that learning science do for the special education population.